I hope my screen is also visible. And today we'll be going more over. Thank you. Today we'll be just looking at I'll be sticking to the VS Code for most of the part. Only for some part I'll be moving back to the browser. So let me know if you guys have any queries or as such. Okay. And I would also request you guys to stay interactive so the class runs smoothly. Okay, so this was the exercise that we conducted last time for just to debug a little bit about more, to know more about looping and as such. Okay, today we'll be discussing about function. Okay, and let's say I'm going to say hello, and I don't have some parameters, and I'll just log in. Okay. So, for people who joined today, this might be a little bit new. I have asked your peers to install something called as Node.js. Node.js is just a JavaScript engine where it will run the code that you have provided for JavaScript, just as Python, you'd be installing Python, compiler or interpreter, and the same thing like Java, that you could do the same thing. And based on the compiler that you have, you'd be running that. So, for JavaScript, we use Node, and it is the engine that runs the code of JavaScript. And if you go back to the browser, it will be using V8 engine. So you could refer those for the past classes. And only last two classes videos were not uploaded. Even that will be uploaded as soon as possible. So right now, you guys know the basic syntax of function. So it's quite common, in all these languages except Python, you will have indentation. But similar to that, even the function would be declared, and the syntax is almost similar, where you'll be the function, you'll be declaring through the keyword. Then you'll provide a name to the function, and you'll add on instructions. Okay, and you know why you need a function too. So can you guys tell me the requirements of function? Why would we need function in programming? Since you guys are already in third year, why would we need function in any program? What's the main objective? Okay, code reusability. Okay, there's 64 students, and if I divide by two, there'll be 32 students, and only two students are responding. What about the rest of 64 of you guys? Guys, you have to be. I know it's Sunday morning and you guys are a bit sleepy, but you need to wake up right now. Okay, it's already 10, and it would be really good if you guys respond. Okay, dividing the code into different parts. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, you guys saw there's already reusability. Brainstorm, use your brains, and give different answers. Okay, dividing to contain all the related codes in one block. Code reusability, code can be called without rewriting again. Okay, redundancy. Okay, block of code, particularly operation and reusability. Okay, code reusability, code redundancy. That's right. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 12. Okay, there's I think like it was 15, okay, two, okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, so people who are in bit sleepy, I would request you to guys get a cup of coffee or tea, because this will be a little bit theory class, and it would be a little bit sleepy. So we won't be discussing anything that's we won't be performing any activity. So I would ask you to stick along and stay up, and please do provide responses when I'm asking question. Okay, so you guys were right, to reduce code redundancy and to perform a specific task, or when we want to use the code again and again. So main reason would be, of course, as you guys said, code reusability. So when we want to have a function where we want to perform a repeated task, or we want to do it. So that time we'll be writing a function, and you guys almost had to break it in smaller part. And of course, when you have to perform a complex operation, rather than writing it everything in one program file, what you would do is you would divide that into smaller functions, or units, where yeah, use time minimum, that's right. So where you'll be breaking that huge complex problem into smaller functions. So again, then if you want to reuse some code that you've written, for example, when you want to check a username, or you want to log something or something like that, so you'll be doing that. Okay, now, so they have written a basic function over here, and you guys know that if I do this, and we know that this has to be printed, and you then it's almost quite predictable that you can't there's nothing printed. And what this happens is, when you put a hello out there, you're just referencing to the function, you're not invoking this function, neither are you calling a function. So, okay, these vocabularies are quite important, when you walk into interview. So make sure you're also improving your vocabulary with technical knowledges. Okay, because communication is quite important. And you're not as soon as I do this, you can see it is getting locked. Okay, so here what happens is, whenever I try to similar to others call stack functions, so what happens is, this function will go and sit in the stacks of functions. And I think you guys have heard, you guys have a basic idea of how the stack works, right? How function goes and sits in a stack, and how those instructions are stored. Then, as soon as you call each functions are removed and they're executed. You have idea of how the function stack works? Not respect to JavaScript, just in general. You guys have idea? Like, even in Python, you would have discussed how a function is stacked, and how written statements work, and how it will come back. Do you guys have idea about those? Yeah. So similar to that, okay, good. Thank you, Monisha. So similar to that, even here the functions will be stored in a stack. We'll get deeper into it, how it is stored in stack, and how the arguments are passed and all those stuff. But right now, let's just understand, as soon as you declare a function, then it will be stored in the stack, and whenever you want to call it, you could call it. And if you guys do recall that in the first class, or I think in the first or second class of JavaScript, we discussed about how hoisting works, and how those things are performed. Okay, so as you can see, even this will be executed, because when in the first phase, so when we saw that there was a memory creation phase. So what happens is, the function will be already declared, and whatever this will be in the the instruction will be, right? You call it, it will be stored, and yeah, and it will be taken over here, and it will be executed. So it doesn't matter where you call it, and it will be executed, because functions are stored in a separate call stack, and they can be called anytime during the execution of the program, irrespective of where you've written the function. So similar to Python, or other code, where even if you write the function all the way down and you call it somewhere else in the program file, it will be executed similar to that. Okay, but pay attention to what I'm trying to say, because one of the variations this doesn't apply. Okay, and we'll go over that. And so you guys can see that one more common mistake, and this is how it works. Okay, so let's say I wanna do a concatenation of string or something. Okay, and I pass something like hello, and okay, str1, str2. Okay, then I'm just gonna concatenate this. Uh, okay, so right now you saw that I was just concatenating two strings. That's not much of a problem. But there's not much of an operation. And I saw the strength today is extremely good. Like it's 70, somewhere around like around 70. So guys who if you are not like got along, or if you're not previous classes, you'll be having a bit hard time understanding this class. So like if you find time, please do go like listen to the older class, like earlier sessions. So you would understand, and like what I'm trying to say, the terminologies and stuff like that. So we already seen that, like where the memory creation phase and everything like that. So here I'm doing a simple function where I'm just concatenating two strings, where I took like two strings, hi and how are you. Then I added this, and this is like escape characters. You would have explored this in Python, like slash and slash t. If you add that, like slash t would be representing tab, and slash n would be next line, those kind of things. It's just escape characters. Okay, so when you do this, what happens is, like the similar to like any other programming languages, you would be passing these parameters to these arguments to the parameters that you've given in the hello string. Okay, and one of the common mistakes you guys would do is, like knowing the difference between a parameter and an argument. Like people will say this is a parameter, this is an argument, but it is important to know in a function what is a parameter and what is a argument. And it is very important because, like when you face interviews, and not only when you face interviews, when you write a code, when you want to document it, it is very important. So do you guys want to, like give it a try and tell me what's the, like what is a parameter and what is an argument? Okay, so I have a function over here written hello, and what is a parameter over here, what is an argument? Don't try to google it, try to answer by yourself, so you're learning. So I'll repeat my question. So what's the difference between an argument and a parameter? Like where do you see an argument here, and what is a parameter over here? Okay. And Varun, can you also like point out, like just type it in the code where, like I've written a function over here and I also call the function. So what is the parameter over there and what is an argument? I got your explanation, but parameter. Okay. I need more responses. Okay, there's only two. Okay. When okay, string parameter is no. Okay. Monisha, just can you look at your parameter hello, arguments no. Okay, so okay, st2 parameters hello, arguments function hello, parameter. Okay, that's a good answer. Okay. Arguments parameter, we are declaring function, it is not good, we are calling it as a parameter. Okay, yeah. So, okay, you guys are trying. Parameters are used to define a function, and argument is called. Okay. Name that argument function parameter and value to the pass. So, yeah, you guys got the right idea. So, most of you gave the right response. So, whenever we declare a function and whatever we are passing through this is called a parameter, and whenever we are calling a function and whatever the arguments that we are, whatever the things that we are passing through in the parenthesis is called arguments. So you guys were right about that. Okay, so here we'll be going over these two things. And and one more common mistake you guys could see, when I try to take this off, let's say I call this function, okay, and you guys also know like functions are called, and if you want to return anything in a function, I'll just comment this right now. And it is done through return, okay, it is done through a return statement, and we would be performing the same operation that you performed earlier. Here, two. Okay, and when you run this, you guys can see that there will be nothing printed or nothing out there. And this is just because whenever you're returning, what happens is it's not printing, rather it's just when you do console.log, what happens is it is returning to the console itself. So it is it's asking the control itself to print it. So that's why it is important to know these, okay, and how it works, how the function is passed and how it is passed outside. And this is very important, okay. So when you go over your code, and sometimes this is a common mistake that is made in in development or any other code you're trying to write. So what you do is you'll be returning a function over there, and you'll be expecting it to print something. So it is very important, if you log to the console. Okay. So if you're writing any method and you're trying to return it, it is quite common mistake that you could see. Hello, and space word. Okay. Uh, okay, so and it will return a function, okay, it will return and whatever it is. And it is quite important that you since JavaScript is a dynamically written language, so you should also keep in mind and what are the when you're returning, what is the type of the value or the data type you're returning, and what is the value you're trying to accept, okay. Otherwise, hence, if you don't do that, then it will be leading to a confusion, when you're writing higher blocks of code. And why? Because I'll show you an example. Let's say a function where you're adding numbers. Okay, at this time you would see why it is very important. Okay, I'm just gonna let's say we wanna add numbers. Okay, and the parameters. Let's say there's number one, comma number two, and I'll be returning number one. And when I try to Okay, so here you can see that it would be it's quite obvious that you're passing number, you're expected to pass a number, and you're getting output as a number. Okay, let's say in somewhere between the code there was a situation where I had to pass a string. Okay, and then we would be knowing that it would be 22 because I pass a string out there, and you guys also know that here when I try to, let's say I wanna print a type of, okay, type of this parameter that we're taking. Okay, it's a string. Okay, and one more thing that you can sometimes you can also see built-in functions being called in this way. Okay, so let's say in this way you're supposed to know even that. Okay, even this can be done. So whenever there is a debugging code or something like that, this kind of syntax will be observed, and it is very important. So you guys how these functions called. So if only few of the built-in functions have this thing. So when you write this, you saw that the return type earlier was two, and when you as soon as you pass a string, it was the output also was a string. Okay, and not only this. So let's say instead of two, I pass something like null. Okay, and do you guys have any idea what would be the output? I pass if I pass number with this thing null, what would the output? So if I try to add null and two. Guys, I know it's Sunday morning, but don't try to execute this code by yourself. Just tell me, okay, probably null. Okay, continue. I would appreciate if more people are responding to the questions so that you can get an idea that you guys are listening to class too. Okay. So whoever said two, na, I don't know whether you guys are executing it or you guys are no, you're just actually trying it. So yeah, so we'll just print it right now. So it would be two because I'll tell you why. Because there's something called as type conversion. We went over this in the past class, okay? And it is very important that you guys know how this type conversion is working. And it is very important not only when you might think that this is a small scope, but whenever you're trying to debug and you pass a null somewhere you because JavaScript is a code that does not you're not passing the parameters over here. So most of the time what JavaScript would be doing is it would be getting something data from some endpoint, some backend or something. And not only all the time, sometimes I'm just giving when you're trying to, since you're using JavaScript as front end in this internship program, what happens is sometimes what happens there is a not data doesn't exist, or data will be returning null, or none or something. So at this time if you're performing any operation on null, you should know how it behaves with different characters and stuff like that. So let's say that I provide I make this a string, then I run the function. Okay, so it will be providing null plus 2 because it will be just taken as string. So whenever you come across these kind of situations, it is very important that you guys code and practice and understand how these are working, because these are quite common interview questions. So you guys saw what happened was, whenever I try to pass and whenever I try to add null with something like a number, what happens, it gets converted to a number. So in null, it will be representing it's no space, right? So it will be representing zero, it will be converted, null will be converted to zero. Then as you guys saw here, so it will become whenever you add null with 2, it will become 0 plus 2, then it will be giving you the output 2. But whereas when it's a string, it will be just a string and it will be concatenating, there won't be much difference. Okay, so it's very important to go over these small points. And whenever you get time, it's important to practice more so you get understanding how this works. Okay, so this thank you for your response. And you know then if I pass to again, okay, then you guys know there's something called as undefined too. So you guys can guess what will happen if I add undefined, okay, not with a string 2, let's take number 2. So what do you guys think will be happening? Man, okay. Null and undefined. Come on, guys, wake up. Be a little more active. I need more responses. Okay, null, undefined, man, undefined. Okay. One, one, two, three, two. Now, as you're putting the response, once also brainstorm why a certain response is you come to a conclusion why that's happening. Okay, because rather than right answer, you should also have a right explanation why you came to that conclusion. Okay. Uh, Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. That's it. 22 responses. There's like 68 students. 10 more students who are like, like I need more responses, guys. So people who are sleeping, you didn't attend this class to sleep. You're here to gain knowledge. So try to put answers out there. Wake up, respond. I know it's Sunday morning and you guys want to, it's good weather. You want to sleep, but I would appreciate responses too. Just for till till 11:40 respond, then you could probably sleep once again. Then I'll wake you, then you can attend the class in the evening. So right now just wake up and give the responses. Yeah. And so you guys were right about it being nan. And one of your friends, I believe it's Sonika, if I'm right, if I read that. Yeah, Sonika gave, and she gave also an explanation why this would happen. So undefined is a data type itself, right? And it cannot be converted to a number, right? Because null is not a defined data type. There's no separate data type as null, but whereas undefined is a different data types. It's a null confirm before with addition of two, and it will give undefined. I don't know why you're telling null can't perform, but we'll get. Don't get confused between null and undefined. They're not the same. Okay, null is just like there's empty space, and like there's nothing. Like there's just like void. It's like there's nothing in it. Null means there's nothing in it. Whereas undefined means there's something in it, but it's just not defined. Like there's no exact meaning. Like for it. So, okay, they are two different things. Don't get confused. Okay, and whenever you add null, it will perform an addition. It will convert it into data type will be converted to zero, and it will give 0 plus 2, that is 2. Okay, and whenever you give undefined, and as your friend, one of your friends said, undefined is it's like its own data type. So undefined is like if you go back to previous classes and refer, undefined will be its own data type. So hence, whenever you try to add undefined with 2, it will be converted, it will be converted, it can't be converted. Hence what happens is it will give a nan, because undefined is it cannot be converted to a number. Okay, that's why we could see that you'll get a response saying that it's a nan. Okay, and these are some basic syntax that if it would be good if you go over. And we also saw if you pass a null, if this will happen. Okay, so let's say that uh, let's pick a scenario where you'd be assessing this null. um, let's just say that you're trying to there's a form going on and you're trying to accept a name. Okay, and let's say let's just take name. Okay, that name is equals to, and let's just say something Ptolemy. Okay, so let's just take the name for that right now. Function username, and function name, username and name. Okay, and okay, and when I pass this, it's quite obvious, right? So whenever I call a username, so to have what's happening, this is the whenever we have a name. Okay, I'll just provide the name over here, and we'll run this code. And as expected, it is supposed to log it. And it's one of the common responses, right? So this is happens in the worst case scenario. Let's say that I so something happened, and this name, whenever it was being declared, it didn't happen. And for some reason nothing was passed into the function because you did some error or something like that, and nothing was there. Okay, so here you can see it became undefined. Okay, and these problems are quite common, when you're coding. And it is where one of the things that you would do is you would add a if else condition out there. Okay, let me just uh, comment this. Okay, then I'll just return the name, just so we are just trying to understand. Okay, just copy this, found it, this is right, and send. Okay, So this is one of the ways where you'll be. I'm just I put moved in the return statement, so it's better code. So whenever I try this, it's quite obvious, right? Because you didn't pass any parameters and it didn't respond, right? And one of the common ways that you would be approaching this problem, you'd be writing a if else statement, right? You'd be like username equals undefined. If it equals undefined, just then you'll put a log or something like that. Please enter your name. So you'd be doing that. Hey, my bad. What happened? Why is it going back to the same thing? Usually, okay, my bad. I called function on that. That's right. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, so we could see that this same thing is happening. Okay, whenever I try to do this thing. So it was getting as don't get confused because of the it's printing undefined because we have another log over here. So whenever we do this, this is a common ways where we'll be taking this thing and we'll be returning a name. And if not undefined, there will be triple equals. And or one of the common practices you'd be seeing if you walk into code or something, no one would be writing name equals undefined equals something. It is not a standard way of doing it. So what people most of the this is not a wrong way. This is, of course, you could do this. You could use double equals and triple equals, and you guys know the difference, right? What happens? What's the difference between double equals and triple equals? We went over this class. You guys remember what's the difference between double equals and triple equals? What happens when I do this or when I do this? What's the primary difference? Yeah. So you guys were right. So when you use triple equals, it will check even the data type. Okay. So and one of the common practice you'll be seeing is rather than putting those kind of things, they'll just put something like this. Okay. You see. So when you put an exclamation mark out there, it will be just referencing to triple equals, and it will be checking that. Okay, and this is the common practice that you'll be in observed rather than we saw earlier where it is name triple equals or double equals, and you won't be seeing that quite a lot. Okay, and this is how it will be executed. Okay, and one more thing is, if you guys can recall, last class we went over something called as rest operator and spread operator. Okay, so I'll be just reviewing that once again because since we are talking about functions. Okay, and I'll declare an array of something. Okay, and I have number array of something, and let's just say that I have cars. Okay, cars year. Okay, I have years car year model year or something model year, and I'm passing something 20, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006 or something. Okay, I'm passing all this. Okay, and okay, and I'll return. Okay, I'll just pass this, and I'll take an array in here, okay, and I'll return the array in this function. So I'll be returning an array in this function, and I'll say here, and this is quite obvious. You passed in and it got there, and it is expected. This is an response that you've been expecting, and it is not very any different or something like that. So let's say I'll add the spread operator here, and we'll do the same performance. Okay, so you guys saw as soon as I put a spread operator there, a small difference took place. So uh, what happened was you could see the spread. There's another array inside, right? So you could see that there's one more parameter coming in, and there's an array inside that. Okay, now I'll just make one small difference over there. Number one. So number one, and I'll be printing this. So you guys saw that as soon as I put number one over here, everything was taken. Okay, it is okay. I'll just call this now, You guys can see, like, because I'm passing only one thing out there, it was distributed, right? Okay, then right now I'll do one more small thing. So I'll just take these things, okay, and inside that we'll be passing these things. Okay. So I'll be running the same code right now again. Okay, so you guys saw what happened, right? So only num1 was taken. Okay, like, let me do the other way around. And I'll print array right now. So you guys see, like, you saw what happened. So whenever I put a spread operator over there, and then, like, I'm passing, don't get let's not get confused, and I'll just take this. So here we saw that we are passing multiple values, right? We passed 2002, we passed 2004, 2005, and 2006. But whenever I return, like, whenever I return the array, only, like, last three elements were taken, and others were not. Okay, so this is what happened. This is very important to know when you're trying to use a spread operator. Okay, and if you go into, like, much advanced JavaScript, such as if you're using something like React or Angular or Vue, something like that. Okay, this spread operator is very common. Like, there's something called as props. You'll know that, like, when you study. But these, like, the spread operator is most commonly used, and you should also know how it works. Okay, so here we saw that, like, as soon as num1 was taken, only the 2002 was printed. Let me just make it more clear to you guys, so you guys are understanding. Okay, right. So whenever I try to do the log and I put num1 from array, I'll just log it so you guys can see better. So you guys saw that, like, 2002 was taken away from 2004 and 2005 and 2006. So what happens is, whenever you're trying to do a spread operator, it is taking whatever is remaining. Like, if you are saying 2002 and it is taken to 2002, let's say I want to pass one more thing, that is num2. Okay, I'll pass num2 over here, and I will even log that. Okay, my bad, I missed a comment. So I'll just take that and I will log that too. Okay, and we'll print that. You can see that even that is taken out. Num2 2002 is taken out, 2004 is taken out, and whatever is remaining, okay, whatever is remaining in the spread operator, that will be assigned to the array that's remaining thing, and it will be spreading over that. Okay, so it is very, like, even if the values increase over here, and if I want to keep it separate, so what happens is, these spread operator, whatever is remaining in the back end, it will be catching that. Like, whatever is taken in the end, it will be taking that, and whatever is not assigned, it will be taking that value and it will be spreading. So this is how a basic spread operator works. Okay, and so it is a little bit hard to get your head around these things, but as you practice, eventually you'll understand how this is working. Okay, so just come in this. We'll be moving on to one more thing. Okay. Now we'll be talking about something known as scope, and you guys have already explored how scope works with the variable names, and, like, how something was declared and how it was taken out and stuff like that. Now we'll be going over a little bit deep into that. So let's say I have function one, and inside the function one, I'm doing just, like, yeah, just let's just log it as function one, and I will declare some variable uh, saying what, uh, this starting something, okay, okay, then I'll just take this and I'll have function two. Okay, and I'll just leave it right here. Then, okay, function two. Yeah, let's just log control that, and I'll declare some other function again. Best what? Uh, let's say what the best food or something. Um, and I'll try to log that over here. quite obvious. Then I'll take this out, put it here. Okay, and this is first log one, and I'll put a log two, log three, okay, and log four. Okay, so you guys know how scoping works and how it is called and stuff like that, right? So I'll just call this function over here, function two, function two. Okay, so you guys know how variable we have explored in the previous classes how variable or let constant whatever it might be and how it those scope and local scope and global scope, and you guys have already explored in if I'm right in Python or JavaScript how what's the difference between a global scope and local scope. So I want you guys to this is a nested function and just as any other conditional statements where you can write a nest inside a if you could write another if else ladder or inside a function you're free to write another function or so similar to any conditional statements if even if you want to write a loop inside a loop those are allowed and similar to that I've declared a function inside a function and this is a quite common thing. It will happen whenever you are coding too and you get into building applications and as such. So right now I've written two functions. So I want you guys to predict the output I've logged over here. Don't worry about there's no written statement. So I want you guys to try like just no not this one. I've not even written the actual execution statement. Okay. Okay, so I want you guys to try this and see what do you think the output will be. Don't type it but try to understand and see what's going on. ಗಡಿಯಾರ ಓಡ್ತಿದೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಪ್ಪ ರಜೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಹಾಂ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಕೂಡ 2 ಅವರ್ ಪೈಸೆ ಆದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೀ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಇದೆ ಹಾಂ 25,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ 50,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಈ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಥರ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಸಾಕೋದಿದೆಯಾ ಏನಂತ ಅದೇನೋ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ guys, don't copy paste the code and try it. Okay, if you want take a pen and paper, trace it out and tell me the output, but don't try to run the code and tell me the output. Okay? I want you guys to respond, see what's going. Okay, yeah, Kushi, you had some question. Yeah. If you have questions, then you could put it in the chat box. Kushi, Viraj, do you have any questions? Guys, try to answer the question. You guys need a bit more time. Okay, so Swati TD. Okay, okay. So you guys need more time. You guys are trying to understand the function, or you're not able to predict the output. Guys, respond a little bit faster because there's quite a number of cons that we have to go over. We are still in. Okay, log one empty, log two, log three. Okay, best food panitika. Okay, okay. I got one response. I want others to try to. You guys need more time, or what's happening, or you're not able to understand or predict the output. If you put something in the text box, then I could respond. Otherwise, I won't know what's going on in between. Okay, so okay. Log two function two log 1423. Okay, log 1423. Okay, log one function log four bestwood. Okay, log two. Okay, log one undefined. Log one undefined. Log two log three. Okay, two log three undefined. Okay, two dimensional log three log four. Okay, I need to go here. 2, 3, 4, okay, now 1, log 4, 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 12, 16, okay, 16. Okay, so thank you for your response. So I think most of you people are getting the gist of how it's working and in the execution. So we'll go over that. It will be there'll be an error, and I will even explain you why there will be an error and how it's happening. So this concept, whenever we write a function inside a function, is called closure. Okay, and closure is one of the if you don't if you want you can Google it, and or you can see any YouTube videos. Closure is it's a pretty common question that is asked in any interview perspective you take it. So what happens is whenever you try to write a function, okay, so let's say I've written a function one. So inside that I have declared a variable constant best cartoon. Okay, in that we have a best cartoon is inside the function one, and we could in a way we could say that this is a parent function and this is a child function, or you could say that is nested in between that. So whenever we declare a function inside a function, so this function or let's say function 2 will be always having the access of variables that you have created in best cartoon. Irrespective of the scope, what happens whenever you try to create best cartoon in this scope, it will be like the function 2 will be having it will be having the right provision to access these variables that are declared in function so 1. So this is a concept called as closure. Okay, so these are keywords, so make sure you're aware of these terminologies, and whenever you're thrown these questions, you should know how to respond to these things. Okay, So closure is like, what happened over here was, so here, if you guys observe, what happened over here was like, whenever I try to, let's say I comment this code for 1 second. Okay, my bad. Control. Okay, so I'll just comment this code for now, and we'll re-execute this thing. So you can see, like, as soon as I commented the code, we could see that function was like function one, function two. Then we have Tom and Jerry. Then we have, okay, I didn't put a log out there for Tom and Jerry. Right. Function, okay, best food. Okay, I just logged the best food. Okay, my bad. I didn't see that happening. So log something. Let's say three. Put that. Whoever responded, you guys, like, don't worry about it. I'm just making sure that we have a flow in here. I didn't see that taking place. Okay, so we have the Tom and Jerry. Then we have let it go. Okay. Let me just clear this. Okay. Okay. So when we have function two, function three, and Tom and Jerry, then we have best food. So what happened was, whenever, like, you could access a parent variables inside a function that you have created, like a nested function, or like, child function, you could say. But you could do that. But if you want to do it other way around, what happens is this best food won't be able to you won't be able to access it outside the function, because the scope of this would end within this bracket, and it won't be accessible anywhere else. Okay, and you can't, like, you can't expect it to happen. Okay, and whenever you try to log this out, so what happens is you'll get an error. So because it will say that, like, you're trying to best food is not defined, because it doesn't know something as best food has been declared. Okay, so whenever I try to do a var, or like, even if I change this, except keeping his var, I mean let, it will have this thing. Okay, so it will be an error. Okay, so that's why. So it doesn't matter whatever you declare except var. Like, whenever you try to do this, it is important to make sure that, like, if you have something inside a function, you're not accessing outside. Okay, so it is called. It also comes back to the topic that we talked about, hoisting, and it will also have a new topic that we introduced was closure. Okay, so these are two things that you should be aware of, and like you should know how this works and everything like that. Okay, imagine, and one more thing that you guys need to know is something called as this word. Okay, and I think you would have heard about this word in Python. Okay, and it has similar, similar, like, usage in this in yeah, thank you. So it would, you have a similar feature or functionality in the same thing, the JavaScript too. So whenever I try to, like, I'll just take out all the other log statements, so you guys are not getting confused of what's going on. Okay, I'll just take out all the log statements right here, and we'll just do console log. Then we have this. Okay, I'll just print this out here. So this is the parent function. So you guys saw here. So this is printing. It is referring to the function that we have given. So whatever the function it is there, like function one, it is referencing to that. And whenever, like, all the, like, context whatever you given in that, it will be able to access that. So let's say I wanna console dot best cartoon. Okay, and when I tried to do that, okay, maybe it came as undefined. Okay, I don't know. Wait. Okay, so we'll look through that again. So you guys saw that, like, we could access whatever the elements that we want. It's inside this function, and, like, variables that you have declared. I'll come back to this again why it came undefined. So you could, whenever you try to log it, you can see that, like, this function is, like, referencing to what is the function. Okay, so yeah, now I understood what was wrong with it. Let me make it. Okay, so I'll get back to that. I think that's what happened. But let's see. Okay, so whenever you try to do best cartoon or something like that, it will be like, so whenever you try to do this, then it will be a reference to the context of function one. And let's say I want, I'll be logging this function outside. So so here when I try to print it, see, let me. Okay, so whenever you saw that, like, whenever I did this, so you could see when I'll read on this, you see that there will be an empty object, so there won't be nothing. So and it is way quite important. So whenever you're trying to reference this in a node execution environment, okay, not in a JavaScript. So what happened was, um, there was no execution engines, and primarily JavaScript was embedded in the Chrome or like in whatever browsers you are using, and you'd be executing functions from that. But later on, we were able to extract something like those execution engine. We have this thing right now. So whenever you put this in a console.log this, and it won't be there. It won't be. You could see that there will be empty parameter, and when I try to do this, we'll explore the same thing with inspect element out here. So take this out. Okay. Inspect console. Just log this up. Console dot log. And we can take this out here. Okay, so here you could see that it is referencing to something called as window object, and it is has many things. And whatever the browser you have, the execution engine will be referring to the context of this. And here, whenever you try to log this without anything, or a parameter or something, or a function where you're trying to get the context, here it will be always referring to this will be always referring to the window, and here it will be referencing to nothing. So this is one of the things you need to be aware of. So okay, so whenever, like, depending on wherever this you're trying to access, it will change. Okay, so it is important to even know where how this function is been provided. And this is just a basic nesting that we saw. Okay, and uh, that's about it. Okay, this is function one. We saw nested functions. Okay, then we have to this we have two more things, that is an anonymous function and unanimous. Okay, so that function, and we have IAFE function. Okay, and then there's implicit return and all this stuff. But it's 11:14. I want you guys to take a 5 minute break, or do you guys want me to continue? Like, are you guys okay? Shall I give you 5 minutes break, or you want me to continue? How is your mental capacity right now? You want me to continue, or shall I give you like 5 minutes break so you could take a deep breath and come back to the class? Guys, I need response. Okay, if you okay, continue and leave bit early. Fine, continue. We need break. We live in a democratic country, so let's just take CV of me need break and CV of me. Okay, so give me a raise of hands if you need a break, and depending on that, if the majority wins. If you need a break, raise your hand. Okay, okay. And guys, if you're majority wins. Okay, if there's 70 students and I think I need more than 36 students, raise hand. If it is, then I can. Okay, okay. There's eight. Okay, only eight people need a break. 62. Okay. Nine people need. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Only 10 people need a break, and rest of you can hear the class. Okay, then. Let's stick to that then. I'll leave a class bit early. Maybe I'll try to end the class by 11:40. I don't know whether I can, but I'll try my best. Okay. So you can lower your hands. Don't mind. I have to take the majority. So yeah, we'll be getting back to the few more things. So in like right now we observed that we are trying to declare a function. Let's just take what was the basic function that we used. uh, okay, I'll just take some other function. Okay, let's just take constant um, color pick or something, constant color picker or something like that. And I'll put a let's just take a function which will subtract two numbers, not sum. return 1 minus. So I'm just taking basic examples. So I'm not. We are trying to concentrate on how function works and all this stuff. Not we are not trying to do lead code out here. So that's why I'm just giving you the basic examples, and we are taking the smallest one. So that's 6. And, and this is this is not a complex. This is not a complex thing, right? So it is quite obvious, whenever we try to that it will be 6 minus yeah, 3 minus 6, it will be minus 3, and this is the quite expected this thing, right? So whenever we you would also see functions being assigned to something, right? So whenever you have constant difference, okay, so I have this, and now it is assigned, okay, so difference is assigned, and it is quite obvious what happens when when you have a function and it is assigned to a difference. So what would happening, it will you get the function subtract, right? So whenever you're saying that it will be returning over here, and you'll be getting the outputs in the difference, okay. So it will be taking the function up over here, and again it's a function, so we need to call it rather than referencing to it. Okay, so I didn't pass in numbers for that. Okay. So let me pass 4 comma type something like that. Okay. So whenever I try to do this, so you guys saw that it is performing a similar operation. So you could see it is quite zero subtract. It's taking the function name, and it is passing, and we could see that the num2 and num3 were there, and the parameters were passed, and the expected output took place. Okay. So what is happening over here is, and I'm trying to give it a different name, okay. So let's it was giving a subtract, and I changed the name, okay. We are calling it with a different name called def or something, and we are trying, since we are extracting the difference, okay. And now I'll take away the function name, okay. So I'll take away the function name, and I'll perform the same similar operation again, and it is executed. So what happens is, this difference will be acting as a function name over here, and it will be taking over the parameter, and it will be executing the thing. So this is called anonymous, and anonymous function, where the function name is not given. Rather, you're just it is given to a variable, and variables have quite a potential in JavaScript, where it can even hold a function and object and JSON objects. You'd explain more. So, but functions variables in JavaScript are quite powerful. So you could see whenever I try to assign this thing, whenever I say that I want the response, and we could see that if I take this away, then we could see that whenever I try to put a function, and it will be a function. And one more thing is in in these kind of data structure, they are considered as objects. Okay, so whenever we have function, it has its own data type, and it is giving you what it belongs to, right? So it is saying it's a function, and you're calling the function difference, so you're referencing it. So whenever you try to call it with passing the parameters that you want, so let's say 5 comma 5, 4 comma 5, and it will give -1, and this is expected, okay. And if you move one step further, okay, you'd have explored something called as arrow functions, okay. Arrow functions are quite important. So it is it is quite you should know those things. So what happens is, I'll remove this function, okay. I'll just take away this function keyword right now, and I'll just put this thing right here, okay. And I'll run this once again, and a same expected output is given. So okay, so we didn't make any changes over here. What we did was a simple thing. We took away the function and the name, and we gave it an add, okay. So whenever I try to do this, this will happen, okay. And this is also if you go into let's say array or something. I don't know whether I have the code for that, but we saw that let's say you declare an array. Let's see, let me show an example array of let's say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 7 5, and I have for array dot uh, for each. Okay, so for each, so you could see over here, right? So whenever I have an element, and I let's say I just try to log it, I don't mention the log it, and I have element for each element of array. Okay, you saw that you could see that there's an arrow function given over here. Don't get too much confused. That this is just not in parentheses. If it is in parentheses, it will give the same thing. Okay. Okay, so don't get too worried about that. So here we could see, like, the same thing is done over here. So we are taking arrow function and the same thing. We're passing the, like, arguments that is necessary, and we are returning it. So here we could see, like, many methods, like not only this, they all expect something called as I don't know why okay, so coming back to this thing, so for each, whenever I hover over it, or let's say, let me write it once again so you guys can see what's happening for each. Okay, it's not showing over here, but let me see if I can get it. Okay, nothing go to one more thing. Ambient dogs. So here you could see, let me go back to this. Okay, so here you could see that, like, there's something called as callback function. I'm not able to hover it over here. If else I would have shown you, like, let's say, I think I have array.filter, maybe that will show it up. Filter. Okay, let me just put constant, maybe that okay, so here, now we got it. Okay, so for each, you could see, like, as soon as I let me expand this. Okay, so here you could see whenever we have these methods where they are expecting a callback function. Not only regarding this, whenever you try to this other methods, like such as fetch, like, auxios, or, like, other libraries that you use, there will be something called as callback function. So they will be expecting you to write a function, and, like, in most of the code you'd be seeing, like, you could see over here too that is a callback function, and you could see whenever we have a callback function, usually it is done through a arrow function. Okay, and arrow function is used quite a lot, and it is quite important that you guys are, like, even over here you could see async and you could see the brackets. Don't worry about, like, what the exact logic is doing, but just know how the syntax is working. But like, when we have async and await and all this stuff, like, during these things, it is important to know how, like, even over here you could see that, like, the arrow function is used. So it is important to know how the execution of the arrow function is taking place. And not only for this, not only for and, like, other like, fields where you'll be exploring this. So, and it is important to know how this arrow function works. Okay, so whenever we have, like, we'll pass the parameters through here, and the instruction that we want to write would be here. And like, the provide the arrow mark that you provided would be declaring this as an okay, so, it will be taking as arrow function, and it will be declaring those things, and it will be giving you the output. Okay, so clear that. Okay, so we'll be getting the output as predicted. Okay, so let's say, and it is very important that you guys are also aware. I'll just take up this code. So I just want to give you an example of how arrow functions are declared. And and there's one more thing called as implicit return. So what we did over here with the return statement, it is explicit. So if you want a implicit return, right? So I'll just go. Oh, why is it? Okay. So I'll just go over here. Okay. I'll take this brackets off. Take this off. And whenever we have a simple execution where we are not performing, huge operations or something like that, it's like one line code or something like that. So at this time, we don't have to write many lines of code, and this is called as implicit returning the function. Okay, at this time, what will happen is you just return the function in the same line. So, okay, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so whatever you put in a one line of code, you could just return this. And rather than this, the most thing that you'd be seeing in a code would be something like this. So this also represents implicit return. Okay, whenever you provide this implicit return, whenever you have it in one line or we have it in a parenthesis or something, you don't have to write the return statement. Okay, and even if you write it, uh, it is not, like, it won't give the right out. It will throw an error out there. Okay, so don't do that. Like, this is a common practice that you're supposed to be known of. Like, as you practice more, you will be aware of this kind of, like, silly mistakes. But so we saw that, like, it will be running, and whether you provide, like, brackets. So, but whenever you change it into a, like, square brackets or those things, you could see that, like, the same thing won't be there. It will be undefined. So why? Because it is not. You're not returning anything out there. You're just executing the function. The function has been executed, and, like, you get num1 minus num2 as minus one. But you're not telling the function to give it back. Okay, you're not returning it. So whenever you put a square bracket, it is very important to put the return statement. Okay, so so this is an important thing. Okay, so you'll get -1. And this is one more thing that about arrow functions. And of course there's many mistakes or something that you'll be doing, but more you practice, then you'll understand where the mistakes are being thrown, or how it is running around and stuff like that, like how the code works and other kind of things. So okay, there's this like 10 minutes more, which is quite good. Okay. So this is arrow function, and this will be working, but you'll know more about it. Okay. Okay, so this. Okay, so this is a quite function. Okay, I just written one more function. So let's say I want something like let's say instead of saying hello world, I have let's say in a real world scenario, let's say you wanna like initialize the whole coding by let's say you want to fetch some data. Okay, okay. So let's say I'm fetching some data. Okay, fetching some data. Okay, some data that I need to let's say data fetch. And I have a scenario where I need to do this because let's say I want this is a primary information that I want for like execution of my code, or let's say before my front end starts running, I need to fetch the information, okay, right before. So I need those kind of situations where my program needs to run, and for the programming to run, I need to get some of the information, or previous function should be executed on time. Like I don't want it to execute with other function, and I want it to be executed right then and there, right? So at this time we would need something, a function where we are executing right then and there. So we could do that using something called as immediately IIFE. So it refers to immediately invoke function expression. Okay, and you guys could do a little bit of research about it and know how it works. So let's say I wanna whenever you could, it's quite whenever I call it over here. So whenever I call it over here, it will be an error. But whereas I wrap this, and I wrap this, and I call it there. Okay, so take this. Uh, Take this logging out, and I'll just put I'll take this log, put this inside that. Okay, and let me clear this. It's easier. Okay, and you can see that data has been fetched. Okay, data has been fetched, and you guys saw what happened over here was this function, irrespective of whatever happening, so you're just calling the function right here. It doesn't matter where you're calling it. Let me just take this away because it's not very good. Okay. It has been fetched right there and it is being executed right then. It doesn't matter where you're calling or like anything like that. This function will be executed right there. And like in like when you program, you'll come across the situations where you have to execute a function immediately. Like you don't have to wait for like other performance to take place, but you want to execute this function primarily, then it will be happening. So let's say I want to pass in some parameter to this thing. Let's say I want to like data has been fetched with some status code, okay, 200 or something, whatever you want to call it, and I want to add this, right? So it is, and I'll put and for newcomers, this is called as like we have discussed the difference between how to like output code and stuff like that in the first class. You could go over that. So and what are we doing over here when we put backticks in the dollar and whatever you're printing? This is called as a interpolation. And make sure you know this terminologies. Okay, whenever you're thrown like in the interview, you should be able to answer this. So this is called as interpolation. Okay, so here we are seeing that like whenever I pass the status code and like whenever I try to print this, of course it won't be printed. It will be just printing undefined because we are not passed in any parameters. And if we want to do it, we'll be passing it over here. Let's say I got status code 200 and we'll be passing that, okay, and you'll be getting that. You guys will know more when you do the internship. What are the status code 100, 200, 300, 500? What are the difference between them? HTTP methods. We'll go more in depth into what are those. But right now, let's just concentrate on how IFE works. And you can see whenever I pass this will be acting as where we'll be taking the arguments, and here you'll be providing the parameters, and those parameters will be passed over here. And this is primarily used when you want to immediately immediately you want to execute, like in the first place of the code itself, you want to execute something. You'll be using these kind of functions. Okay, this is called as IIFE. Okay, so just make sure these terminologies, you are aware of it, and you're also noting it somewhere down. And I think I have covered whatever the functions I have to cover like today, and we just have, if I'm right, just one more topic that belongs to DOM, okay, and how DOM structures work, and how those and DOM and event handlers, and I'll try to cover that once again by today this evening, and DOM structure and event handlers will I'll be trying to cover that. And is there any other topics that you guys want to know? Know like you want to learn about in JavaScript that you want me to except take out DOM structure and event handling? Is there anything that you're facing errors, or is there any code that's in the application that you are having a hard time understanding? Any number of any question that you want to discuss, or you think that it would be helpful if I teach it in class? So, guys, I need your response. Is there any topics that you want me to go over, or is there any questions that you want me to? Not for the next class. Next class, I've already, I have already prepared my materials that I'll be teaching DOM and event handlers. We'll be going over that with few examples. Is there any other topic except that you want to know or you want to learn? Okay, async functions. Okay, okay. Promises async wait. Okay. Mm-hmm. API handling. Sure. And you guys, if you want, you could look somewhere else, look it up, and you want to put a text or something, you could drop a text. I'll provide my email and prototype. Okay, prototype. Okay. Why don't would you, if you don't mind, can you brief out can you put like one more thing? What do you mean by prototype? Just prototype is a vast concept in JavaScript. What are you trying to exactly reference to prototype? Well, right now you guys have asked me for async functions, promises, API handling, and prototype. Okay. Okay, new keyword. Okay, you want me to go over new keyword. But I think Varun, I have discussed new keyword, but I'll go over it once again. It's no problem. Rest of you don't have any topics that you want me to cover. You guys are good. Okay then. I assume that you guys have if you want if there's any topics that you want me to go over. You guys drop anything, or if you want. So if there's any topics that you want me to discuss, I'll just drop my email out here, and I want you guys to go through that, just think, see any topics that you're like, okay, maybe if I teach that, it would be helpful for you. Okay, regarding JavaScript or any interview things that you want to process, so you could put a subject that these are the topics that you want to discuss, and you could I'll apart from async functions, promises, API handling, and prototype, and you these four topics, if there's any other things, you could drop a mail to me with this email address, and make sure you do it by next week, right? So even I have some time to go over the notes, and I provide you the right information and teach you the right way. So I'll be the next class, after this, after today evening, it will be like next weekend. So I'll have some time to prepare for myself and study those topics, and teach you guys the right way. And even I could refresh those things, and I could provide you the right example set. Okay. So if you guys, the people who are having attendance problems, I request them to stay. And there's two Yashaswinis, if I'm right. I want Yashaswini M and Yashaswini M. I want them to stay, and third person would be Madhuri M. If I yeah, Madhuri M. And I just want these guys to stay. And if you don't have any queries or such, you're free to exit the meet. Okay, you can exit the meet. If you don't have any attendance, or if you have any other questions regarding the applications, you could stay. Rest can leave the class. Or if you have any queries regarding the class today, also you could stay, and we could go over that.